Look at that. I'm doing my first art show next week selling photographs. I'm going to start selling them on my website soon, but I've been taking photos for like 20 years. I think for the longest time, I never believed that I like had a certain level of skill to, I don't know, that people would want them. I think that's an interesting thing for me, whereas like I'm, kind of always doubting my ability and my skill. That's not good. I mean, that's not fair. Everybody starts somewhere, but it's the standards thing again. Like I was talking about in the last video that I posted, I think I hold myself to such a high standard that that prevents me from actually like doing anything in the first place. And it wasn't always this way. Like when I was growing up, I was relentlessly creative. If it was a story or a drawing, or I wanted to sculpt things with clay, or tried designing a video game. Shout out to Furcadia and their little dragon speak coding language. Like I wanted to build things and make stuff, and kind of let curiosity take me wherever I wanted to go. And that's something that just kind of dissipated over the years, where I think I kind of let myself down so much, or realized that I had so many disparate ideas that I would never kind of like hone in and try anything for too long. So I'd be starting new projects all the time, new project, new project, new project. And I loved the beginning phase when I was writing a lot. I loved the sort of like exploring what the world looks like. I never really wanted to write sort of like backstory histories of it, like, Tolkien esque sort of situation. But I did love the sort of the process of figuring out, like, okay, what are cultures like? What are societies like? I wrote a lot of like, sci-fi and sort of like speculative fiction stuff. So there's ample opportunity to see like where did things change, where did things diverge from our own society. And that was always exciting. So starting new projects, starting a new drawing, or trying just a new skill, like it was always exciting, kind of diving into new things. And it's the reason why I jumped from video game to video game. Like I love video games so much, and there are a select few where I will just kind of get really obsessed. But even then, people put thousands and thousands of hours into games, and that's just never really been me. It's a pretty big deal if I put a couple hundred hours into a game. That's a lot of time, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people, especially capital G gamers, would be like, "Oh, you're not really invested in this unless you're putting in thousands, 2,000, 5,000 hours into a game." And I just can't think of much beyond I don't know, maybe World of Warcraft back in the day that I would spend that much time on. Regardless, over time, I think I let myself down enough starting all these new projects and realizing that I just like almost telling myself that I wasn't reliable, that my creativity and artistry was not valid. And I don't know how many people feel this way, but I think we tend to get this perception of what art is, what an artist looks like, what a creative person behaves like, the different routines, the disciplines, all of that. And when I didn't have that, or it didn't seem like I matched up with sort of I don't know, the stereotype or sort of the quintessential look in my mind, I really got bummed out. And I think I lost faith in myself that this was something that was still really important to me. And even over the years, as I've invested more and more into my career, my professional career in the corporate world, there was always this longing. There was always something kind of yelling at me. There were always story ideas. There were always characters that I had started writing back in college that I had wanted to continue on with for a long time and just never did. And I think when I let myself let myself down enough, I kind of trained myself into thinking that, like, okay, all these creative ideas, all of this inspiration, all of these thoughts, all of these project ideas or whatever, those are inside thoughts. Those are not manifesting. If I really believed in myself, I would do it. If I was really inspired, it would drive me to actually jump in and do this thing. Talk about blowing out your own candle. Like it's so hard when you are constantly telling yourself that you're not doing it right, or your creative expression isn't valid, or because you don't get obsessive about any one particular thing, that it doesn't matter. that you're not a creative person, you're not an artist. And that's one of the challenges that I've put forth to myself lately, especially in the last couple of years, and then especially in the last 6 months, 5 months. I started reading a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And The Artist's Way is all about helping artists and creative people reconnect with that side of themselves and heal that inner creativity. It's like always kind of there, always bubbling beneath the surface, but just maybe sometimes hard to reconnect with. And I think it was one of those books that for the longest time I scoffed at when I realized it was going to take effort. I always thought that like artists create because they're so inspired. Like I remember growing up and feeling so inspired or have such a cool idea and I felt so motivated to chase it, that when that stopped happening, that's part of why I started to think that I wasn't an artist or a creative person. And it turns out that's not the case. Everybody who creates art is working at this and has those moments where those blocks come in, or it does take effort and it does take time. And sometimes you start projects and they don't pan out, and sometimes you just work a little bit for a long time to get it where it needs to be. And one of the big lessons that I took away from reading the book is that it doesn't happen if you just sit and think. It doesn't happen unless you start. If you are somebody who has an idea for something or wants to be creatively inspired or be a more creative person, you don't do that by just sitting there and waiting for inspiration. That sort of mythical muse is just that. It's a myth. It's something that we kind of romanticize. And it's not to say that there aren't those moments where you may be more motivated. You may have an idea that's really calling for you. That's great. And I think it's a great time to seize those opportunities. And that's where I need to get better about listening to myself, where I think if you just kind of sit and wait for so long, like I have for so long, you start to, even those really great ideas, you start to talk yourself out of chasing them because you're just going to let yourself down again. So that's kind of why I started this and why I continue to just talk endlessly at a camera. I want to make stuff like this. I want to make stuff that connects with people. And also, like, I want to show off the things I do sometimes. Like, I'm really proud of that photo. And the fact that I've been taking photos for 20 years and I think I have a pretty distinct voice in my photography and am really proud of a lot of the shots that I take. That means something. That's a part of me, and it's a way that I connect with the world around me. It's a way that I can share my creative self. I think my longing for variety and working in a ton of different mediums and being interested in different technologies and different methods and things like that, I don't see that as a weakness anymore. And that's something that I want to continue to nurture over time, that like, this is a good thing. This is a good part of me. I can be proud of one thing, even if I'm not obsessive about photography. I still go out and do it. I still make creative choices and I still feel proud of the work I do. And that doesn't happen if I don't just do it. So that's it. Like that's the kind of the secret sauce to the creative process for me, is that if I just sit and play video games and hope that it's going to change, I know where that gets me. But if I sit down, do the thing, press the record button, take the shot, write the story, if I just work a little bit, it starts to unravel. It starts to like unfold. Like the creativity almost starts to present itself rather than me trying to dig for it. It's like, hey, I'm right here. And that's a great feeling. So I'm excited to hopefully sell this next week. This is a shot from Maui. When I went to Maui a few years ago, I'm going to sell this and donate some proceeds to the Maui Wildlife Fund. I think that's what it's called. I'll put the link in the description regardless, just in case anybody watches this and is curious about exploring further. But there are a number of different organizations that you can donate to if you want to help out with the relief efforts after the wildfires in Maui. That's all I've got.